The official Homelander scaling. In this video, I'll be attempting to power scale Homelander, both the live-action and comics version of Homelander, specifically excluding non-canonical versions. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos such as this one. First, let's start off with the live-action version of Homelander. The scene here is from The Boys Diabolical, the animated series' finale, which is confirmed canon to the live-action show, The Boys. It also confirms Homelander is completely bulletproof. Being completely bulletproof is approximately 35.6 tons of TNT, or city block level. Soldier Boy is a character with a comparable power tier to Homelander, and he is someone who can tank his own explosion without being vaporized, also casually city block level. Homelander was at the epicenter of an chemical plant explosion as seen here, calculated at minimum city block level. Also, attack potency-wise, Homelander damages Queen Maeve, until the point Queen Maeve has to use a metal rod to temporarily stun Homelander. Queen Maeve then proceeded to tank this explosion, in which outputs gets to city block level. This is Queen Maeve in the aftermath, by that explosion from Soldier Boy. I think Maeve took more damage from Homelander than from the kinetic energy of that explosion. Keep in mind, Homelander was holding back. Homelander is low-end city block level in power scaling. That is Homelander's very low end, as Homelander's low end as is actually town level. Queen Maeve wasn't even bloodlusted in that scene, and neither was Homelander speaking realistically. Stan Edgar is referring to soups inferior to Homelander with the power of a neutron bomb. Power in biomechanics as defined as both strength and speed together. Neutron bombs in which have outputs ranging from 1 kiloton and 10 kiloton yields. To place Homelander at town level, and instead of small town level, we can look at his fight with Soldier Boy, who scales relative to Homelander. By Homelander being able to eat 6 punches from Soldier Boy qualifies for town level above the 5.8 kiloton threshold. At an earlier point in the video, I mentioned how the chemical plant explosion was city block. There is a high estimate of it being small town level. Homelander have taken a 3 kiloton explosion from a chemical plant in its kinetic energy. Homelander as an adult now, being able to trade hands with his biological father, solidifies Homelander at small town level now, if not firmly town level, but in the low ends.
Russia? Near the border, I think?
Ryan is able to fly approximately 2.66% the speed of light, if not faster, being a sub-relativistic feat that at 120 pounds would generate energies within large town level. My proposition holds that if a character moves at X, their destructive output would automatically scale 7.31 times less, or up to 8.12 times less. The weakest Ryan could punch is 40.57 kilotons, or town level. Since Homelander can also tank Ryan's punches multiple times, adults being 1.2 to 1.5 times stronger than teenagers would scale Homelander above Ryan, with town-level striking output and large town-level durability. There is a theory that Ryan bled from his flight from Russia to New York, which would imply Homelander is 2 to 3 times stronger than Ryan due to scaling relative to that energy. Homelander, when accepting Ryan, could punch at 71.9 kilotons, would scale large town level, being 1.5 times stronger, or at 107.85 kilotons. If I had to make it simple, using physics, using the average teenager weight at 120 pounds instead of 112 pounds when accelerated at 2.66%, the speed of light would yield 413.87 kilotons. Divide by 7.31, multiplied by 1.5, yields an energy equivalent near 84.953 kilotons. Town level is per each of what Homelander's theoretical output yield per punch. Ryan, who seems to shrug off a flight from Russia to New York, would be analogous to a 120-pound jogger who is 14 years old, moves at 5 miles per hour. Given jogging generally ranges between 4 and 6 miles per hour. A 120-pound object, moving at 5 miles per hour, has a kinetic energy of approximately 135.9 joules, or 1.359 times above 100 joules. When you take 413.7 kilotons and divide by 1.359, you will get 300.415 kilotons, or large town level. Scaling Homelander 1.5 times above this gives 456.62 kilotons in raw power output. I would like to mention, although it takes 2% of an object's dead weight to pull it due to rolling friction in physics, A-Train from The Boys is able to pull a train on a broken leg, Power scaling in fiction is inconsistent anyway, so it's generous to give the benefit of the doubt to a train with a pulling strength of 167 metric tons or the weight of a locomotive. Homelander can snap a train's neck. Using an average adult's pull strength to the requirement for neck snapping gives a ratio of 1 to 48.5, meaning Homelander via attack potency places in the Class M range. To make it simple, because Homelander can snap the neck of a character who is able to exert within the Class K range of force applied, Class K being 100 metric tons to 1,000 metric tons, Homelander would be in the Class M range, which is 1,000 metric tons to 1 million metric tons. Now, I have established Homelander's very low end being city block level. His actual low end being small town level plus. Homelander's base would be town level and high end would be large town level with a lifting strength at around Class M. This scene right here shows Soldier Boy locking Homelander inside a soup-proof cell, locked in with so-called enriched uranium, which could inferably is meant to mimic both the radiation and kinetic energy of an atomic bomb, rather just its radiation. The most famous example of an atomic bomb is the one dropped on Hiroshima named Little Boy, which had an output yield of 15 kilotons. Soldier Boy tells Homelander, "Good luck," while Homelander is bleeding out of his ass, implying this is more radiation-induced than kinetic energy. Moreover, the enriched uranium in this scene is meant to simulate the effects of an atomic bomb, rather than contain the radiation of it, meaning its chemical properties interact with superbiology than it being a test of an endurance. Regardless, this scene right here adds to Homelander's base being town level instead of small town, as he's able to get out of a soup-proof cell while weakened, some lower-tier soups being around small town level or power equivalent to neutron bombs, as stated by Stan Edgar. In this scene, Soldier Boy tells Homelander to end himself after confronting his past with his brother Quinn, who is the result of an experiment of Compound V1. It could be Soldier Boy feeling remorse for Homelander after locking his own son inside a soup-proof cell with uranium, meant to mimic the effects of an atomic bomb. However, since Soldier Boy asks Homelander to kill him, it means Homelander could arguably scale to an hydrogen bomb which can range from 100 kilotons to 1.5 megatons, something stated by William Butcher to be a possible weapon to kill Soldier Boy, or directly equating Homelander as hydrogen bomb in terms of output. Now, in the speed category, Homelander is underratedly fast himself. In this scene right here, it is more of movement speed than combat speed. Being able to blitz gunmen and take the weapons out of their hands, that is pretty much the subsonic tier, or 130 miles per hour. The facial expressions on all of their faces says otherwise, possibly even faster than 130 miles per hour. Here's another instance in The Boys Episode 7, where Homelander speed blitzes the Frenchman before his death. Homelander was an entire science laboratory away from Frenchie before getting from point A to point B in precisely 300 milliseconds. You could assert that the distance between Homelander and Frenchie in this specific scene is roughly 50 feet to 100 feet maximum, converting to 113.6 miles per hour and 227.27 miles per hour. As for this scene, Homelander takes a parody of Elon Musk to space and leaves him there in precisely 2.5 seconds when pausing frame by frame. Space is 6,200 miles above sea level, yielding 2.66% the speed of light, or subrelativistic for his travel speed. It's important to consider the fact that Homelander did not look tired in the aftermath of this scene, generously placing Homelander at 26% the speed of light, or outright relativistic. Homelander is arguably 3 to 6 times faster than that explosion due to having to save William Butcher. The calculation, as seen prior, assumes Butcher has wall level or small building durability, or being able to withstand being rammed by Homelander, instead of Homelander carrying Butcher to safety, making the feat hypersonic plus up to massively hypersonic. Otherwise, Butcher has wall level durability, in which he does not. This is proof that Homelander's reaction time scales to his own laser's speed. Homelander could dodge or stop himself from getting hit by his own lasers. Next, Homelander is able to beam clash with Butcher, in which wouldn't have happened if both did not scale up to their own lasers within their reaction speed or reaction time. It's like two guns firing and both of them make contact perfectly in the middle of the air. Neither of the parties had to react to the opposing threat, which is the bullet fired. Homelander has above average intelligence. He is able to communicate with Sage with a clear premise and change Sister Sage's initial thought process of not joining the Seven as a team. There almost is not any doubt as to believe Homelander has above-average intelligence, as he can read and pinpoint guess people's hearts or mind through their heartbeat, using his superhuman hearing. And honestly, Homelander is capable of his powers that his superhuman abilities, in addition to his flight, as his has been used to track Ryan and Becca in the Season 1 Episode 8 finale. Homelander has above-average intelligence. He is a skilled manipulator, and has managed to hide all of his crimes from the public for a long time. In this scene right here, Homelander tracks Ryan through Vought's advanced crime analytics. Ryan himself, who has super hearing and super flight, would have spotted the fact another superhuman is keeping a relative pace to him across the Atlantic Ocean into Norway. Meaning, Homelander has decent stealth ability or decent tracking skills that it goes under someone else's notice. That someone else is capable of flight at super speeds and enhanced superhuman hearing. Homelander is shown to have signs of intelligence and great strategies, as he managed to outsmart Stan Edgar to get himself out of serious consequences multiple times, comes up with plans like having to create super terrorists so that he could be integrated into the US military by giving them vials of Compound V so that they would develop superpowers and he could neutralize them and gain popularity, and coming up with plans to take over the federal government and the entire country, and is willing to manipulate people and other characters, such as manipulating the public to believe and support him. As for Comics Homelander is in fact weaker than show Homelander, but would arguably surpass him in a fight. Homelander is a round, large building to city block level as a low end, as he destroys 2 large airplanes or aircrafts on 2 occasions. City block level casualties Homelander and other supes can fly from Washington to Hollywood at Mach 180.1, or massive hypersonic, assuming the international adult male weight at 171.9 pounds yields 35.6 tons of TNT. Upscales the Crimson Countess, who can melt tanks with city block levels of output, in which average estimate, via the calculation, yields 17.20 tons of TNT or city block level. Modern supes of Compound V are analogous of being nukes to sticks of dynamite. In this next scene, I will discuss how I arrived with 2.402 kilotons from Homelander, decapitating Maeve with a single punch and send it flying like a baseball. Calculations shown now. DC Knockout Superman can punch with kiloton punches, in which I estimated to be between 2 and 5 kilotons. Homelander's attack potency scales relative to Superman's 0.2 to 5 kilotons versus 2.402 kilotons. And yes, DC Co. Boss Battle is canon to The Boys comics, since The Boys comics was actually published by DC even, or at least it's canon 6 issues. Like Homelander in the live action, Homelander in the comics also scales to Class M lifting strength. There is no reason to believe Homelander would not survive Superman's same uppercut multiple times over. In addition to that, Homelander could swim inside the sun, calculated at 807.29 tons of TNT per second, or 968.5 kilotons, across a beginner session of 20 minutes. As for Homelander, from the comic speed, he has at least more consistent speed scaling than most people realize. For starters, he's able to fly from Washington, D.C., to Hollywood at Mach 180.1, or massively hypersonic. Butcher and his team can dodge lightning. Also, massively hypersonic, or Mach 350, should scale to the Great Wide Wonder, who can fly at massively hypersonic plus, or Mach 2140.30, using the distance of 6,200 miles. Across this time duration of 9.8 seconds, using the 13.7 seconds calculation, would be still massively hypersonic plus, or the number listed right now. People do not realize this is Homelander's best speed feat yet. Homelander should not be able to damage Noir unless he had Goku-level skill and hand-to-hand combat. The only rational explanation for how Homelander ended up mutilating Noir in the process is that Homelander had to scale X cubed times above Noir in speed. Black Noir is a character who is consistently transonic to hypersonic in his own speed tier, as he could move at, if not completely dodge, the fastest of bullets. To find out how fast is Homelander, we need to find how strong Black Noir is compared to Homelander. I'll start off by saying, Black Noir could tear Homelander's arm, punch his jaw off, and send it flying, and implied to obliterate his head, since supes can be alive as long as their brain is undamaged. It is from here that I determined Black Noir, who is Homelander's superior clone, to be 75 to 110 times stronger and more durable than base Homelander. Keep in mind, Black Noir has anywhere from transonic to hypersonic speeds. Homelander is consistently sub-relativistic speed when fighting Black Noir. Something I would like to mention is about Homelander's combat prowess. He can fight superheroes relative to around his own level. If Homelander was completely untrained, he would lose to Soldier Boy, just as he did with Queen Maeve. Instead, Homelander was holding back in that fight. In fact, Homelander can fight people above his level in terms of power and willpower, like William Butcher. The fact Ryan and Butcher could restrain Homelander completely, unlike Soldier Boy, Temporary V Butcher, and Huey on Temp V, Homelander, who could launch Butcher in backwards with his fists, just proves Homelander could fight decently. And moreover, Butcher is an experienced soldier who served for the British Armed Forces, specifically as a commando in the Royal Marines, and later as an operative in the Special Air Service. Soldier Boy, who can trade hands and beat someone else more durable than himself, in which Soldier Boy's fists hurt upon making contact. throwing a Superman punch. Homelander has combat experience as a kid, being pit up against Vought, Supes, or Vought-enhanced guards, as seen in his flashbacks here in The Boys, Season 1, Episode 8, Diabolical. If Homelander were so untrained, he would not have maintained a relative pace to A-Train, or let alone keep up with him. A-Train would have easily escaped Homelander, and A-Train is considerably faster than Homelander, depending on the circumstance. It is biased but not irrational to assert that Homelander and many other characters in the Boys-verse has human-level combat speeds, or when engaging in combat. Biased, as the Boys universe is a fictional universe just like any other fiction piece of media, and would have inconsistent power scaling, therefore mixing what would be flawed, grounded, or incorrect, or apply a general consensus of sorts. However, it is not irrational, as the Boys universe in the first place is to be a grounded version of what would superheroes be if they had exist in our world. Applying realistic power scaling to their verse has some merit. By default, such my previous math are asserting that Homelander is maximum level light speed, for example. Homelander may have human level combat speed, but maybe has light speed combat reflexes in application when parrying, countering, or moving at the rate with another hypothetical character. You could take A-Train versus the Deep and say A-Train would speed blitz the Deep in both a fight and battle. However, it is not accurate to say A-Train would also speed blitz Soldier Boy, Homelander, and likewise since Soldier Boy has shown to counter a speedster such as Mr. Marathon. And Homelander had the reflex to stop himself from being hit by heat vision from William Butcher. Likewise, different points of time of the CW Flash or Dash from The Incredibles would not speed blitz a certain character from The Boys. This is combat reflexes in application to combat speed, not reaction or specifically movement of the limbs. On the very low ends of the spectrum, one Homelander gets to city block and the other gets to large building. Homelander gets to city block via being blatantly bulletproof and upscaling Soldier Boy's explosion. Comics, Homelander gets to large building due to being a casual aircraft destroyer. As for speed, Homelander from the live action should get to hypersonic due to going to space, which is Mach 33 and at least scaling enough to save Butcher from a C4 explosion. As for comics Homelander, he scales to Supersonic Plus via reacting 20 times faster than human and dodging bullets. That is medium Supersonic Plus. Live action Homelander gets to Small Town Plus via being able to upscale Supes, who supposedly have the power of neutron bombs, while his speed is through scaling Mach 18.2 times 3, for he carries Butcher to safety. Comics Homelander gets to multi-city block via decapitating Maeve, who at bare minimum would scale to energies relative to the Crimson Countess and able to fly from Washington all the way to Hollywood in a matter of time, casually, massively hypersonic. Homelander, within the comics, could trade punches with Superman from DCKO and decapitate Maeve's head off and send it flying. Who should tank Crimson Countess's blast like a slap to the face, would firmly settle Homelander at small-town level. Massively hypersonic plus stems from the average range between subrelativistic and massively hypersonic. In addition to scaling to the Great Wide Wonder from the Boys' Diabolical animated series, Homelander gets to town level plus from scaling off of his own son, Ryan, and massively hypersonic from dodging Butcher's heat vision at Herogasm. If you watch closely, watch how Homelander takes the energy of over 600 kilotons of TNT within 2.5 seconds casually, and because it is analogous to real-life physics, Homelander should upscale 600 kilotons of TNT or bare minimum large town. This is firmly the subrelativistic tier in power scaling, or 2.66% the speed of light, using the distance of 6,200 miles, given Ryan also flew from Sudzha, Russia to New York in 1 second. Also, 2.66% the speed of light, followed by the theoretical standpoint that Ryan bled from his flight in 1 second. If I had to make it simple, Homelander from the comics gets to small town level plus in his striking output due to scaling relative to DCKO Superman, who has inferably 5 kilotons of TNT every time he punched with his fists, and Homelander, who bled from his mouth, had proceeded to give Superman a struggle in his fight. In addition to the fact Homelander's appearance is canon to the Boys comics. Comics Homelander gets to subrelativistic due to scaling most of times 75 and 110 cubed times off of Black Noir, who's consistently transonic to hypersonic. Comics Homelander also scales X times squared above Black Noir for the cubed accounts for atmospheric drag/air resistance and elastic deformation. To be absolutely clear, I'm taking their theoretical destructive output overall, which is nowhere near their raw striking output. In other words, they would lose to a character with that displays mountain striking output and shows sign of definitive example of relativistic plus travel, combat, movement, perception, reflexes, and more. In summary, Homelander from live action is a town plus character with high hypersonic plus to subrelativistic, while Homelander from the comics is a town level character with massively hypersonic to subrelativistic. The difference is Homelander from the live action can strike with town plus level output and have speeds to vary consistently between high hypersonic plus and subrelativistic. while comics Homelander is a town-level character that strikes with the higher ends of small town, which easily gets to town level and speeds that are very consistent with massively hypersonic and subrelativistic. As for their high ends, live-action Homelander gets to large town level with speeds hypothetically massively hypersonic plus to relativistic, while comics Homelander gets to being a large town plus level character with subrelativistic. As for their threat level, comics Homelander, when bloodlusted, would beat any small city level character with normal endurance and speeds below hypersonic. Contrast to Black Noir, who has well above superhuman endurance. Whereas Homelander from the live action would lose to a character who is mountain level to massively hypersonic and also lose to a character who is city level who scales up to relativistic plus.